so we are now going to talk about stats, and a lot of these stats we're going to venture into not only local stats but some national statistics to kind of help us understand our market a little bit better, and they're very interesting. So we're going to start with nationwide unemployment rates, okay? So with unemployment, we are now seeing this this graph here gives you a little bit of an idea of where it's been since 1947, okay? It was it was really high in 1975, high in 1982, and right now we're sitting at about 8.1%. So we still have unemployment higher than what we would want it to be. Typically on average it sits about 5%, we're at 8%. And so we're going in the right direction. I mean, it was higher than that, considerably higher beforehand. But we still have a high unemployment for our country right now. All of this plays into real estate, okay? It's important for us to kind of know the strength of our national economy, because in many ways our national economy has an impact on our local economy. So to give you a little bit of perspective on unemployment, during the Great Recession, which is basically considered to be from 2007 to 2012, 2013, and then from our unemployment right now, so basically it spiked at about 14.7% in April of 2020, and then it kind of dropped down. We didn't see that high of a spike in the Great Recession. We got as high as 9.6, but we're really at about the same pace as of last month is where we were in the Great Recession. So we kind of saw a similar type of path, but a totally different reasoning behind, you know, the unemployment rates. So here's GDP. GDP is kind of like the pulse of our national economy, okay? And so here's kind of the percentage of GDP. As you can see, from 2010 to 2019, overall we had some pretty decent GDP rates, around 2%-ish average, but in 2020, I mean, it tanked. It tanked way worse than we ever saw. In 2009, we saw it go down to a negative 2.8, okay? And in 2020, we actually saw it go down even more, a negative 3.5% GDP. We should see that rebound up in 2021.
Chad, what's GDP?
Gross domestic product. And so that is kind of our pulse. We kind of look at, that's the engine of our overall, how much is our national economy actually working and moving and growing. So, okay, this one is really interesting. This is home sales on a national basis, okay? We know that home sales in Idaho Falls, in southeast Idaho, we're actually better than the majority of the country as far as the strength of our market, because our inventories are near record lows for the country. But if you look here, overall in yellow is 2019, and then we're looking at how that works on a monthly basis in 2020. And so on these home sales, we saw the reduction in April and May and June. We saw where the home sales were actually lower than it was in 2020 or in 2019. But then we actually rebounded, and 2020 actually ended to be a stronger year as far as home sales go than 2019 did. I mean, what we're looking at is we had this drop,
pattern,
but then we actually rebounded, and in the end we actually had more home sales.
Are you saying basically that, I mean, inventory, it didn't drop, really? We have more buyers.
Home sales dropped. Home sales dropped.
But then it picks back up is what I mean.
But then,
so,
yeah, 2020 was a better year nationally than it was in 2019.
So even though inventory is low, we just have more buyers.
Correct.
The houses are still there, obviously.
And more sellers sold.
Right.
Because you don't have a buyer without a seller. Why is inventory so low in our market? Well, this is why. Basically, we had home sales going up and up every year, but then in 2007, what dropped off more than anything else?
Well, people couldn't get loans any longer.
Couldn't get loans, and they didn't build houses. Okay, so home sales then dipped with new construction. Now we're up, but we still have, the reason why we have the inventory shortage right now is because of all this home shortage, all the new homes that didn't get built. Because the people buying homes were already born. 20 years ago, they didn't slow down having kids. All right, they still had them. So we now have that boom and that demand. But because we had 8 years of nobody building homes in the country, now we don't have the inventory for the amount of people that need to have homes. You guys understand how that works? Our low inventory is because of this drop in homes.
I think Gary said at one time 200,000 builders are no longer building. They did not come back into the market.
And if you look in our market, a lot of the builders that were really building a lot in this time period, they didn't come back into business. They already found other employment. And when it started picking up again, they were done. And then we saw probably in 2017, 18, we did see some of the builders who left the industry now getting back in. But I mean, that's right here. And it's too late. I mean, and we don't have the labor to be able to build them more. Every builder in town would build double the amount of homes if they could, if they had the people to build them. This is another interesting stat. So the yellow area is our unemployment rate, and then the blue is the percentage of annual home purchases, and we have it broken down by age. Okay, so the highest unemployment rate is with people that are 24 or younger, but they also reflect the smallest amount of people that are buying homes. Ages 25 to 34 has the second highest rate of unemployment, but they represent considerably more, and that's 23% of people that are buying homes. But the lowest unemployment rate are people that are age 35 and above, and they represent 74% of people that are buying homes right now.
Which makes total sense of why the housing didn't really crash with COVID. Because of the unemployment rate for the highest home buyers was not as affected.
Yeah, it affected more people age 34 and younger. So it didn't affect us exactly. So here's what's really interesting. And if you look, and there's another slide, I think it's next, that kind of puts a little different perspective as well. Here are our mortgage rates from 2014 to 2020. We basically see them kind of going up and down, but they've really been kind of, between 4.5%, 3.5%. And then we saw in 2020, they just dipped down even 1% lower when no one expected that to even happen. How much longer will interest rates be low? I mean, we thought that this wasn't a sustainable rate, but as we have heard, banks are actually having record profits right now at these lower rates of interest. So maybe the new America is having low interest rates because it's not like it's hurting the banks. The banks are still making a lot of money. And maybe these are the new, maybe we won't see rates at 8 or 10 or 20% again. Who knows? But right now, to see banks with record profits means that the banks are probably okay with rates staying low. Historically, this is really interesting. From 1972 to 2020, on average, rates were about 7.91%. Basically, about 8% was the average. If you take a smaller window from 1990 to 2020, on average it was 6%. In 2007, when I built my home, I got 6.25%, and I thought, man, I can never complain about this rate. I mean, I really felt like grateful that I was able to get 6.25%, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. Well, right now, we're sitting at 3.3% ish, or even lower. So at the end of 2020. So people who have bought homes in between 72 and 2000, they just can't even comprehend this world. But these low rates, as we'll see in another slide, it's what's making the rise in home prices even possible, because they're still quite affordable. All right, so Landon Kessler with Idaho First Mortgage provided, here's kind of our interest rates. Right now we have conventional 30-year rates at 2.5%, 15-year at 2 1/8. Idaho Housing, they're the same at 2.5%, and for FHA as well. And FHA, RD, VA, even lower at 2.25. So it just depends on which form you go to get your FHA. But anyway, either way, rates are, I mean, it's just really cheap, which is it's contributing to our problem of low inventory, and high prices, and we'll just see how it goes, right? I mean, the market's...
So Chad, the biggest thing I think about is at that rate, to go up $10,000 is a very small increase on your payment. So when you're making an offer and you want to win, throwing another 10 grand on for $20 a month to win the bid? Yeah.
Okay, so this one, they collide against each other, but they create each other to make this work. You have interest rates that start at 3.62, for example, and now this is over, this is 2020, and now they're at 2.68, and then you have average sales price or median home price that goes from 266 up to 310. As rates go down, what goes up?
Price.
Yeah, demand and prices and
So
value.
is this our market or is this nationally?
This is nationally.
Okay.
We're doing anything that's got this background is a national.
Okay.
We're going to do some national stuff.
Okay.
So here's local. So for example, what we're seeing now, and I thought we would see this in 2020. We didn't really, because in 2020 we still had a really strong year. But in January we're starting off actually selling less homes overall in the market. I'm not referring to our team, I'm referring to overall in the market from Bonneville, Bingham, and Jefferson counties. In 2020, in January, we had 161 homes sell, and in 2021, we had 129 sell. And so we're actually now seeing, because there's not much inventory, before we had enough inventory in there, and we were able to get it in fast enough to where we still saw a pretty comparable amount of homes sell. I think it's because of our really low inventory, we just didn't have enough, and so in January we were not able to sell as many homes. We all know we have enough buyers to double or triple that amount. We just don't have the inventory, so now we're seeing a reduction in sales.
So Chad, I think everyone needs to notice this sale price because it's going to come into our absorption rate down the road, which kind of blew my mind when we get down the road. But keep in mind how many homes sold to keep in mind the absorption rate. Months of inventory.
And the only way to fix this is more listings. The market is ready to fix this. We just need more people who are willing to sell their house, and it'll fix itself. This is kind of a breakdown of where we're seeing homes currently on the market. Under 100,000 basically doesn't exist in our market. Between 100,000 and 400,000 is really where our market is, and we all know that it's really pretty much between 180 and 450 is really where the majority of the homes are in the market. Upwards of 700,000, there just are not that many homes, and the days on market is actually higher. So, okay, home prices. This kind of tells us overall, if you're looking at what does a home on average appreciate? On average, over time, 4%. Is typically kind of that number that we're looking at. Is 4% a year is what we see for appreciation. And we saw that in 2002 to 2007, we were actually being more, we were averaging more than 4% on the over time scale. But then we dropped it down. We actually dropped so much that we've been below that. This line here is the average at 4%. We actually have not fully recovered yet. Even though these numbers are well above 4% appreciation annually, over time, we still haven't been able to make it up there yet. So it's not like our market's so crazy. I mean, it
just feels crazy because it's coming back.
Yeah.
But we're still, if it would have just kept at 4% on a regular thing, we would have been above these prices without the ups and downs.
Yep. So we're not, there's still room for us. And
we would have been the boiling frog, right? We would have felt the rise slower, but now we jumped into the pot, and now it feels like we're boiling to death.
That's right.
Great analogy.
Thank you.
That is good. So
we would have boiled slower.
All right. So
thanks, guys. That was a funny joke.
So, January market overview, average price in 2020 in January was $250,000. Which for us, we couldn't believe how high that was. I mean, next year at this time, are we going to be saying our average price is $420,000? Average, What's making this possible? Low interest rates. Are homes more affordable now as a percentage of your income versus where they were a year ago? They're still more affordable. So it's almost an illusion, you know, this price, because the rates drop down to make it to where it works.
This is probably only affecting people who are paying cash. If you pay cash, it feels more expensive, but if you are financing, it doesn't feel as expensive.
That's right. Yep. And if you're moving here from another market, that's still a bargain.
Yeah.
You know, people are willing to pay $100 grand more for a house here because they seem, you know, they know where they're from. It'd be worth $300,000 more. So, but yeah, 2021 in January, our average price is $331,000. 32% increase in a year. So going back to that 4%, I mean, we're catching up, probably faster than we want to. So, and then on average, year over year, we're at really...
This was just last year, 2009, just to get an idea of average price from 2019 and 2020 as a whole.
Yep. And it's $292,000 is our average price for 2020 versus 2019 for the whole year. So, and that is a 18% increase. So obviously we're doing more than 4%, but even at 18%, we're still not catching up to an annual 4% increase. Okay, so let's look at how much, and this kind of gives us an idea of overall appreciation on a national basis, okay? From 1989 to 2005, we saw homes appreciate every single year at a pretty solid rate. Except for in 2005, it went up a little too fast. Okay, then from 2006 to 2011, that was pretty much the Great Recession. We saw home prices dropped down 1.8%, almost 10%, a little over 12%, and then it started stabilizing. And then in 2012 was when, in our market, it kind of bottomed out and homes started to appreciate again.
So, Chad,
it didn't feel like the market was recovering, though, even in 2012. It wasn't until about 2014, looking back, to where, like, things are going good again. So
on this, if people don't understand it, this is not home prices, it's appreciation, it's value going up or down. So prices didn't necessarily revert. They just didn't go, your house didn't appreciate as quickly. I think people get a lot of confused, the difference of prices and appreciation. Your house will always go up in value, but one year you may see that it doesn't go up as fast. Yeah, because people go, oh no, those prices are going to roll back. Yep. Well, they don't roll back, they just don't raise as high. Yeah. Because
if you look at 2006 to 2011, even though it dropped considerably, it depreciated at a scale to about 4%. From 12 to 15, it appreciated at 7.6. We're now kind of leveling off a little bit. It's 5.79. But in 2020 at 9%, which I think interest rates had a lot to do with that, we don't like these purple numbers, you know, those purple years. So, any questions on that? Okay, affordability, how much of your income is your mortgage payment, okay? It was never more expensive to own a home than it was in the 80s, okay? It peaked at about 36% of your income was going towards your mortgage, towards your housing, okay? And right now, it's only 16%. So how are people affording these homes? They're so expensive. Well, people who are saying that are seeing the prices of $330,000, but they're not taking it into effect. And the people who are saying that, they are paying 36% of their income on a $100,000 house and barely getting by. And right now, we have those people buying a house that's worth 4 times that, but only 16% of their income is going towards their payment.
And that goes back to interest rates, I'm assuming, right?
Goes to interest rates and employment. You know, people always worry, is our income keeping up with prices? Well,
that's a problem I feel like people have here. If they're local, they're feeling like they can't afford a house because, you know, they maybe haven't gotten a raise in however long.
So interesting that you say that. If you take a look at what they make, back in the 90s, what was minimum wage? $6 an hour? $5 an hour?
Less.
Right? Yeah. Now people on average, they make $10, $12. That's kind of the low end, right, of those kind of things. $10 or $12 an hour. Now that $100,000 house at our interest rates are probably cheaper than their rent payment.
Right.
And so they feel like I can't buy a house at 180. It's because they don't understand what that payment would be. And it's actually a percentage smaller than if they would have bought a house in the 90s.
Yeah, and to what Jess is saying, back then in the 80s, they just had less disposable income. Right now, the person at 16%, they might not feel they can afford it. And it's because back then they didn't have big car payments.
Right.
They didn't have credit cards. They didn't have student loans. And so they found a way to spend that money. But really, you know, so I mean, it's still relative to it. I mean, you find a way to put money somewhere if it's not towards housing, because housing is first. And it's so cheap right now that people are saying, well, I can't afford more, and they can't, but it's, you know, they have other debts. And back then they just didn't have it. So.
Student loan has been a big killer for us,
Yeah.
for the younger generation.
Yeah, it's bad. Okay, so list to sold percentage. This continues to go higher and higher. We're seeing a 3% increase. In 2020, we were really proud that that homes were selling for 98.6% of list price, and now it's 101.6. Homes now are selling over full price. If you are going to write an offer on a home and go under list price, on average you have zero shot. Even if you make a full price offer, on average you have zero shot of getting that home. If you don't go to a home expecting to pay more than full price, you are not going to get it in this market. Again, that's average, you know. I mean, we see some that do, but when we do see some that do, we see more that go for way more than 101.6%.
Can I piggyback on that? Do you
Yeah.
feel like agents are listing them lower, a little bit lower than what they know they're going to go for to get the multiple offers? Like listing aggressively, Ryan?
So let me just repeat. Let me just, because you don't have a mic. And so basically,
sorry.
Casey's saying, do we feel like some agents are listing them lower to have maybe the market come up and make that difference, Brian?
Well, I think it just depends on what the seller wants to do. I mean, I give them the option of, hey, here's the high price. Here's the price that's going to cause a lot of buyers to come and take a look. So if they want to achieve that high price out of the gate, then sometimes we do that. But I think most of the time we undervalue just a tiny bit to cause more buyers to come and look.
I think also we worry about appraised value. You know it's probably going to sell higher, but if we start out that, do you worry about, now the buyer takes the responsibility of the appraised value if they take their price up rather than us trying to draw out a price at a higher.
Yeah,
Well, and it's, I'm sorry, Brian.
And then to answer Casey's question, it's just a hybrid of everything. I mean, we don't always hit the high price. We don't always go for the undervalue to cause lots of buyers. It just depends on what the seller wants to do.
Well, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, it comes back to strategy. I mean, like when you're going to write an offer, like it's so dependent upon that particular home and the activity with that particular home. So, like, if there's only like 3 offers on the home, then we're not going to be quite as aggressive and use some of those techniques that we talk about in our masterminds all the time. It's like, you know, are we going to do non-refundable earnest money or a portion of that, or like what does the inspection period look like? It's a whole package. But at the end of the day, the counsel I give all of my clients is that the list price is a guideline, and that we run comps and we look at whether or not it's been priced low, because you can look at that and but you're also like looking at it and saying, okay, now I need to add an additional 7% on to what those comps are, because that's what our market is doing.
Yeah.
So,
you have to be much more skilled as an agent right now in being able to
win
things
offers.
out, to win offers. I mean, there's so much in being able to, you having your opinion on the value, and then also being able to determine, you know, where the appraiser might go, how you package it, the presentation of the offer. I mean, it's a game right now.
it goes back to motivation on the buyer's part too. So if they're planning on being in this home forever and ever, and this is their forever home, then they might go 30 or 40,000 over asking, because we're up against 10 other offers, and they can do that little risk that it doesn't appraise, and then they can put more cash towards it, and
Well, it's a lot less risk when you see the appreciation that's going on right now. Mm-hmm. You add that money on and you're going to stay for 5 years. You're seeing that come back very quickly. People that worry about PMI, it's not nearly as a worry, right? Your PMI is almost gone in a year, maybe 2, with the appreciation that we're having right now.
Yeah. And it's a game because sometimes you might write an offer for $30,000 over, and you're like, okay, the appraisal will come in and it'll come in lower, and it's a strategy. Well, the appraisal comes in at that price, and then you're like, oh, well, that plan doesn't work. Or you go where you think the price is, and the appraisal still comes in 30 grand low. I mean, it's hard to anticipate the game, right?
Yeah. That's why having agents that are trained and full time and doing that's gonna, if you're frustrated with losing offers, there's strategy behind winning offers, and it's not just price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So last year at this time, it felt like most homes were going very quickly, but then we had a number of homes that were priced too high and they weren't going, and we had, which is why average days on market is usually high. And we had 55. We knew that 55 days on market was not a reflection of how quickly homes were going. Well, we're getting that even closer because those higher price homes are now gone that were sitting on the market, and now most homes are going pretty quickly. So even 22 days on the market seems high because we know most of them are going within a day or two, but there are some that are listed too high, and it's taking this average out. But it's almost a little bit deceiving to see the 22 days on the market because you don't see many homes actually make it that long. You just see a few homes that are making that average go higher. So, but overall, we saw a 60% decrease in days on market.
In just January. So last January was a lot slower market than this.
Yeah. Yep. This is the stat that I don't like for our market. This is a national stat, okay? So this is our inventory level. We determine if we're in a buyer or seller's market based upon how much inventory there is. If you have 6 months of inventory, then you have a lot of inventory and a lot to choose from, and it's a buyer's market, 6 months or above. If you go under that 6 month mark, then it's a strong seller's market because there's not a lot of inventory, and if there's low inventory, then prices are high, okay? So you can see when the recession happened, our inventory got really high. In Bonneville County, we had 1,000 homes on the market, okay, in this time period, and there were too many homes. You would list a home, and you were not ever expecting on getting an offer in the first couple days. Usually, there was just time. If a buyer saw it, they could wait for the weekend and call you 3 days later, and it was probably fine. There was no rush. That's kind of how a buyer's market is. Then in 2012, we got kind of balanced, and it's continually dropped. Right now, nationally, at the end of 2020, we had about 3 months worth of inventory. That's a pretty good place to be, is 3 months of inventory. Idaho Falls, southeast Idaho, it's a lot different story. So currently, there's only 62 homes on the market between Blackfoot and Rigby, okay, in 3 counties. In last month, there were 97, so we saw a reduction in 36%, which typically in January, February, December, we do see a reduction in inventory anyway, but it's a lot less than it was last year. Here's our absorption rate, okay? We're less, nationally it showed it at 3.1 months. This is where Idaho Falls is different than almost any other place in the country. We're at less than half a month of inventory, or 2 weeks, okay? Last month we were at 0.36, or about 2.5 weeks. Okay, we're dropping. Luckily, we're going into the spring, and we see it with the amount of homes that we're getting ready to put on the market, and it's starting to kind of build up. But, luckily, this isn't the inventory level in October, going into a slower time. So we're going to hopefully see this boom up here, but it might not because we know how many extra buyers we have. And so it might be able to keep this low, even with a significant increase in listings.
So, Chad, I thought this was interesting. When I saw the current homes on the market at 62, and us dropping from 97 last month, I thought our months would be lower.
Yeah.
But what we saw back is how many homes sold, because months of inventory is based on how much sold versus how much we have. That's why it's not 0.25 with this low of inventory, because we had less homes sold in January.
Yeah.
We had a drop in that as well. So, and it could just be a reflection of each other.
Yep. Okay, so this is our inventory levels again. This kind of shows basically most of our inventory again is between that 100 and 400, 500,000 range.
So this is really
This is active.
This is active as of yesterday for 3 counties. Really, unless you're spending $500,000, you have 38 homes to choose from in 3 counties. If you don't want to spend over $500,000.
Are these single-family townhouses? What are they?
Single family, townhouse, manufactured with land on a foundation, cabin.
Okay.
Yep. So basically real property.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything that's real property.
Yep.
It's not duplexes or triplexes,
Right.
but yep.
Okay.
And this is the problem. This is why inventory is low. So for example, there's so many people that live in our community that want to move, but they only have this many to choose from. And the thing is, they want to move like in Skyline, or they want to move in IF. They want to stay in a school. Well, if this represents like 9 high schools, you know, and so they want to stay in one high school. So then you take that by a 9th. I mean, there's just not many options.
And depending upon what high school that is, you're probably going to get 1 or 2 homes in that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah,
So,
if you want to be in Blackfoot, you know, if you want to be in Rigby, if you want to be in Shelley, yeah.
And then you got to break it down to what price range are you in?
Yep, exactly.
Now how many homes are available in your high school, in your price range?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1.
1.
All right. So anyway, current homes on the market in Idaho Falls, 33 homes.
So we use this, the boundaries of all the Idaho Falls high schools.
Yeah.
So out of the 38, that was just, 38 plus 14, right? So 33 of them are in Idaho Falls out of the 3 counties.
Well, there were
Out of 52.
14.
Yeah, 52.
Yeah. 52.
And 33 of them are in Idaho Falls.
Exactly right.
Yep.
And this includes Ammon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anything in the 5 Idaho Falls high school areas.
So within Skyline, IF, Hillcrest, Bonneville, Thunder Ridge, there's 33 homes, and we have less than a week of inventory. Okay. Tight.
6 days of inventory.
Wow.
So
Nationally, it's 3 months.
Yeah. So if we didn't have a single home come on the market in the next 6 days, we would be at 0. That's what that means. So we can't stop working.
Did anybody throw up in their mouth just a little bit by him saying that?
Yeah.
Fine.
And this is kind of that breakdown in the Idaho Falls area is kind of where they all are. The most amount of homes are really between, it's 200 and 500 again. So, and look at here between 600 and and above, the days on market, they aren't going that hot in that market.
So I might mention you'll see that days on market of 720. There's a few houses in there that are trying to get commercial pricing. So they're out there forever,
Yeah.
right? So that's, I mean, is that really a...
Well, and that's just
Yeah,
one property.
That's one property.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have another segment of the market. They're for sale by owners, which adds more inventory. Bonneville County has 24, Jefferson 5, Bingham 4, 33. We see in a tight market that many times people will choose to list on their own. When the market shifts, I mean, it's a way different thing, but there's more inventory that's out
And I
there.
have to admit, this is coming from Zillow, which means we don't know the accuracy of this.
We don't know the
right? We don't know. Half of them might be sold or not even really on the market, or so.
Or might be inputted wrong.
Or might be
We see
Yep.
homes that are invisible.
May have been closed already.
Yep. Or they just have the information wrong.
Yep.
So, okay, so we see some patterns that are emerging from this pandemic, and we don't really know what's going to continue with it. But here, and this is nationally, right? We're seeing some markets that are funner markets, more desirable markets, and people are not having to be so close to their hub. And so we're seeing people move to different markets. Idaho Falls being one of those markets. People are saying, hey, I want to live here.
We're a funner market.
A funner market.
Yep.
And they don't have any family who's lived here. They've never been here. They just are thinking, hey, this might be a place I want to go. We get calls like that all the time. People are moving to less expensive cities, and it's taking pricing pressure off some of the bigger areas, and it's driving up demand in some of these other destination cities. Okay. And then we're seeing that people are less focused on living near their office. They don't need to. It'll be interesting to see what happens with New York City because so many people are working from home And now a lot of those people are saying, I don't want to move back in the 20-story building in Manhattan. I want to go live somewhere else. And so is there going to be a crisis in New York City with people not wanting to move back? Or will it be filled with something else? People are watching that market very closely because, you know, it's kind of a scary situation.
Companies are really finding it is less expensive for them to not have to have office space for their workers. And if they can commute and a worker can find somewhere that has a lower cost of living, and that their money stretches further, they have longer term employees. I mean, it has changed the dynamic, and we've seen that as people are flocking to Idaho Falls.
Yep. Yeah, it's affecting us 100%. So, all right, well, those are our statistics, thrown in some national. Next month we'll do some more national statistics and put them in with our local stats as well. Yeah, any questions on any of those statistics?
Anybody have any ahas from the statistics they saw from Gary Keller? Family, anybody have any insights?
I mean, the biggest thing I would share is what historically, when there's change in a market, it typically means that there's an opportunity for those that are hitting it hard, who are willing to change with the market. If you fight the market, then you might get a black eye. If you learn to dance with the market, it's a lot more fun. And so we can't change the market, so we're gonna follow it, we're gonna understand it, and we're not gonna find out 2 years later, you know, that, oh, we should have changed. I mean, we're gonna dance with it as it happens, we're watching, and we're gonna make sure that our clients, you know, are gonna be able to get the latest information and the latest strategies to be able to work in today's market, and not try to work with strategies from 3 or 5 years ago in today's market. We see that today. People will come to us and they'll complain that people that they're working with are not, you know, they don't want to work with properties that have multiple offers. They don't want to compete. Well, you can't. I mean, it's just, how do you avoid that? You can't. You have to dance with it. You can't fight back. So anyway, you want me to take over that mic and do some nosy neighbors, or do you want me to do this? Fluff Ball House Call, Amber and Ivory Boutique, Smash It Therapy. Anybody been there yet? Everybody watch that video?
It was an awesome video.
There's something to that. Museum of Idaho, they've got some really fun stuff going on. Possibly Picasso. I've heard of a number of people going there, even from out of town. I mean, it's getting really popular. And Hands of Hope Hospice, a great place, and a lot of people don't understand, you know, the help that's there. So, as far as who's coming up, we have the Warehouse, Geraldine's Bake Shop and Deli, Code 4 Auto Detail, the Bookshelf, and Kidstown. So be looking for those. We already have 2 of those out. Code 4 we did today. That'll be out later on this week.
I think because we've done live, the 3 have already gone out because we moved to live.
That's right, we went to live. So Code 4 is out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And the Bookshelf is I think the largest used bookstore and one of the last in the area.
Yep. So support our local businesses. As we left Code 4 today, the owner came out and said, hey, I already got a deal out of it. Someone had already watched it and didn't know about it.
And you did the Warehouse too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the owner is super creative and, well, because it's like a co-op.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I actually, my headboard, she made herself. And it's this really spectacular, like 9-foot, beautiful headboard that she made.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's really awesome.
That's cool.
And by the way, and one thing about the Warehouse I didn't know is the amount of unique baby clothes that they sell. Very cool. If you need gifts or things for kids and baby, they have great unique baby clothes.
A lot of things to check out.
Yep.
So. All right, everybody, those are our stats. Thanks for being here. We are slowly moving in the right direction with COVID.
If you want to be in the know on the value of your home, then click on the link or give us a call.
You may feel like prices are high, but there has never been a better time to sell your home and buy a home. Call us and we'll explain why.
Our team has outpaced the market in dollars per home sold and time on the market. If you want to see how your home would sell and how much it would sell for, give us a call.
If you love the idea of having someone to contact at any time, that's the benefit of a team. give us a call. Let us talk about your process and how you can have a better experience, a more satisfying experience in real estate with Murdock Manwaring Company.